Okay, this is the review for the Unit 3 exam. If you are taking this class online, your whole test will be multiple choice. For those of you that are taking my class in person, we're breaking it up into three parts where we have 40 questions that are multiple choice, and then we will do the other 60 points will come from your slide ID and the unknowns. All right, and then so the slide ID, I gave you the list of 20 artworks. You remember how in the last couple of tests I told you to just study the styles? Don't have to do that for this test, right? So I'll explain that as we go along. But for when you take the slide ID portion, memorize the 20 artworks and know the artist, the title, the date, and the style. And then you've done the unknowns before, you know what that's all about. All right, so let's go ahead and start. I have arranged these alphabetically to help you with your review. All right, I did not talk about this in class, but you know the Japanese print, the Great Wave. All right, that comes from this series of prints called 36 Views of Mount Fuji. And in this review, we're going over the answers and non-answers as well. I discussed absinthe during this unit. On this test, know the nickname for it. All right, there was a nickname for absinthe. Yeah, look in your notes. Yep. What's the nickname for it? All right. This unit was full of revolutions, all right, and the American Revolution. I did not discuss this at all during the class, but I did discuss revolutions, so you should know the difference between them. But the American Revolution is on the test. With Cezanne, I want you to know how he flattened his space. How did he do that? Yeah. And I also want you to understand the multiple viewpoints of Cezanne. So I think there's two questions about Cezanne, and I know I blew through it real fast yesterday. I hated to do that, but he's one of the most important artists. And we quite literally had to sprint through the art museum with him. Chiaroscuro shows up on the test. You should know what it is. And the painting, the coronation of Napoleon, shows up on the test. And what I'm looking for here is like, what is the purpose of this painting? Yeah, the purpose. That's what Google says. But I discussed this painting. All right. And if you need to go back and rewatch the video where I discussed this painting, you can do that. Right. Courbet. What I'm looking for here is, what is his art about? What issue is he making art about? The term court painter is on the test. You should know what a court painter is. Okay, with this Degas question, we're going to treat it like an unknown. I'm going to show you some artworks, and you should be able to identify the artist. There's two artists that we're going to look at, or that are on the test, where I'm going to show you artworks that we did not see in class, and you should be able to say, "Oh, that's a this, that's a that." All right, and I think with him, it should be easy.
So it's like when you're just identifying what's his painting.
Yeah. All right. Delacroix. I'm going to show you two of his paintings. And I want you to tell me what is the painting, or what are the paintings about? And you'll be able to pick from either 4 or 5 options.
Sir, Degas was the one. Degas was like, did he have muted colors? How would you describe the colors that he used? Because I know the ballerina paintings, but like,
Right. They're definitely the ballerina paintings. And there's another theme that he liked a lot. Jockeys, yes. All right. I think we looked at 3 paintings by Delacroix, maybe 4. And there was several of them that were about one situation. So that's kind of what that's about. All right, the Disasters of War series will be on the test. Know what it is. If you could define it in a sentence, what would that be?
Delacroix was the Raft of Medusa and the.
That was Jericho.
That was Jericho.
Jericho did the Raft of Medusa.
So
Delacroix is actually in the painting of Raft of Medusa, but that's because Jericho painted in there, right? Delacroix did paintings of the Greek War for Independence and the revolution
This one, right?
of, yeah, that's the French Revolution of 1830, and he also did paintings of the Greek War for Independence. All right, the dates. You guys got it easy. This unit all took place when? Everything that I taught you in this unit, what were the dates of everything in this unit? 1800s. All right. Yeah, we started in 1800 with the Napoleonic art, and we finished with very late Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, but up in the 1890s, right? So everything that happened in this unit happened in the 1800s. That's an easy giveaway, right? I'm going to show you a work of art, and I'm going to give you a series of dates. What date was this artwork made? And you need to be able to identify. Oops. In plain air, you should know what in plain air means.
When you being outside.
That's right.
In plain air.
Fuseli, I want you to know what he was influenced by.
Oh, Michelangelo. Oh wait, he's the hater.
All right, Gauguin, you should know his art. That sounded like Noah's Ark. You should know his art. You should be able to identify a Gauguin when you see one. Grain stacks will be on the test. Who painted the grain stacks and why?
So this one is this one is
That's
Fuseli.
Fuseli.
This one.
And not that painting, but what were the other paintings that I showed you by him? What were they? What were the influence of those?
That was classical. It wasn't classical.
The Grand Odalisque is on the test.
What's that?
Okay, so that's the painting of the woman. She's a reclining nude. She has her back to us, and it's very. I'm going to say "quote unquote" Oriental. That it refers to the Orient. She has this Turkish uh, uh, fabrics, and she has like a little fan that's very Turkish. So the Orient meaning everything east of Europe, like the Middle East.
This one was like really flat, and she was
Yeah. Yes, yes. She had something on her head. She had a and weird anatomy.
There was like the black servant.
No, all right. So it's not. That's Olympia. All right.
This was
Grand Odalisque was very a lot more realistic in that Olympia was very flat. It was done by Manet. The Grand Odalisque, she's very rounded. This is neoclassical. All right. And it's the same artist that did the wonderful blue dress, with all the satin in it.
you just went over good one. Which artist?
Anga, Ingres.
Is it ING?
Ingres. Right. What was the thing about that painting? Right. It made references to the Orient. All right, the Greek War for Independence is on the test. Who made art about that? Yeah, I was just talking about it. Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. He was the little guy. Right. And what did he make art about? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All of that. Yep. All of that is correct. Impasto. Yeah. Impression sunrise is on the test. Know the basic info of that, like the slide ID info of that. The Industrial Revolution is on the test. You should know the difference between the Industrial Revolution and the American Revolution and the Revolution of 1830 and the Greek War for Independence Revolution. All right. Know the difference between those. That is, that painting Liberty Leading the People, and she's going up over that. That is painted for the Revolution of 1830. All right. There's a couple questions about the Japanese. One is about the isolation of Japan. All right. Remember what I was talking about, the isolation of Japan. And the other question is about the effect of Japanese culture on artists. But it was Japan was isolated for so long. And then when they finally opened up to trade, all this stuff from Japan came out and it flooded the market in Europe and America. And so everybody went wild for all this new stuff that they've never seen before. So the effect of the Japanese culture on artists. All right, Liberty Leading the People. I was just talking about that. I just might have given you the answer. What are all these emails about?
French Revolution of 1830. Yeah, French Revolution.
All right, Madam X. Know what the controversy was.
Yeah, that's what. Do you think French was
She was at the higher, like she had higher status.
It's because it was public.
Yeah, she never did one.
All right, Manet. You should. All right, so you should know. You should be able to identify a Manet when you see it because of the flat colors. But I'm not showing you a picture. I need you to like find the descriptive words for Manet. He does not use chiaroscuro. Remember how he flattens his women?
like this? Or do you flat? This is right?
Yeah, and go with like Luncheon on the Grass or Olympia or the is it the Execution of Maximilian? Those are all very flat paintings. Millet, what is his art all about?
I'm already on something.
All right, Monet. What did he study? When he was making his paintings, what was he studying?
How do you say his name? Millet?
Millet,
Okay.
but we can call it millet because we're Americans.
Yay.
But they have so many different pronunciations. I'm just going to pronounce it Frank.
That's what I put. Millet. And then it said, beyond.
All right, monochrome is on the test. You should know what monochrome means. Yeah. The Moulin de la Galette is on the test. Know the basic info from the slide ID for that one. Those Van Gogh. And know the basic info from the slide ID on that one. So we studied neoclassicism before Napoleon and after Napoleon. What's the difference?
Propaganda.
Napoleon crossing Saint Bernard. I don't know if that's on the slide ID. I can't remember what's on the slide ID. But if it is, just know the basic slide ID info. The term orthogonal pops up on the test. You should know what it is. And what's the importance of putting paint in a tube? Yeah.
Sir, Saint Bernard is a mountain, right? Or is it like a
I think so.
Because Saint Bernard like another dog.
Yeah.
I know they were.
Big fluffy dog. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there were.
Yeah.
movies coming.
So I can imagine a little tiny Napoleon crossing a big fluffy dog. Yeah.
So do we put effects on?
Yeah. So yeah, photography is where am I? It's the effects on painting.
Okay, now he simplified it for auto. Encouraged?
Yeah, we're some of the effects, or some of the ways that artists mimicked photography in their paintings. Say that
I
again.
think it's candid.
Candid, yes. Right, not posed.
The lighting too. It was like, because then he said that that one guy with the really grayish shadows or dark shadows. It was like he was looking at like a flash photo.
Yeah, like a blur,
Yeah,
right? The motion blur
that's
and cropped photos. You begin to see cropped people in a painting. And artists could explore emotions now that they don't have to. Yeah. For the Raft of Medusa, know the controversy?
We got somebody in trouble.
Or, all right, let me guide you this way. There were critics who loved it and the critics who hated it. The critics who loved it hated the government. The critics who hated it loved the government. So why would that be?
It was because there was people without nepotism in them, and they didn't deserve that position, and they abused their power and put people in danger.
All right, realism pops up on the test. You should know realism.
What's the reason for it?
Yeah, the reign of the terror we studied in Unit 2. And that was the French Revolution that ended Rococo.
Oh yeah, because everybody was killing everybody.
Yep. They're dragging the aristocrats and sophisticated elite out into the street, arresting them, killing them, beating them, arresting them.
Getting executed.
Yeah. So know the difference between this part of the revolution and the revolution of 1830 and the Industrial Revolution and the American Revolution and the revolution going on in Greece. All right.
Wait, yeah, what's going on in Greece? Oh, is that what that one island, and they like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we looked at a couple paintings that were about the revolution in Greece. All right, Renoir is on the test.
Oh,
You should know his art. Know his art, not Noah's Ark.
The Greek.
Romanticism is on the test. So you should know the characteristics of Romanticism. What was Romanticism about? And so there were several paintings that we looked at by different artists that carried kind of the same theme through it. So I'm thinking of the slave ship, the raft of Medusa, the Greek Revolution paintings. What did all they have in common? There was some of that in them, but the Greek Revolution paintings don't have man versus nature in it. And Liberty Leading the People doesn't have man versus nature in it.
Oh, emotions.
You can go back and rewatch the videos. All right, so know the difference between a salon, the salon of 1874, and the Salon de Refusé.
wait, what's the visual drama mysteries?
That's not, the answer on the test. Lots of other styles of art have visual drama. This was something that was unique to Romanticism. Even remember the guy rearing on the horse as he was retreating from battle, and it was what was Raft of Medusa about? And then we had that soldier on the horse retreating from battle, and then we had the paintings of the Greek Revolution.
It's not heroically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Does everybody know the difference between these three salons? I should even throw in the little salon with the little s in there. That'd be a great essay. Explain the difference of the four salons. All right, so the Salon of 1874 was the Impressionist and Post-Impressionist exhibit. And that one was purely independent of the government and the academy. The Salon de Refusé. What was the intention of that?
To shame them.
Shame them, right?
To shame the post-impressionists or
No, to shame. What group? No, because it wasn't. The Salon de Refusé was not about Impressionism, Post-Impressionism.
It was romanticism.
Yes, Romanticism and Realism. Saturn eating his children. What series did that come from?
Williams. The one in his house.
Yeah, the one that was in his house. That's right. Know it. Go back into your notes, rewatch the lectures. Right. You don't remember it from talking about it in class?
I don't know what you're expecting.
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
expecting this.
All right. So, fun fact: this last Christmas I bought a Santa shirt. You know, like a Christmas shirt, and it was done in that style. Like it looks just like that, but he's wearing a Santa suit and a Santa hat, and it's Santa eating his cookies.
Oh my god.
All right.
That wasn't from Disasters of War, was it?
No, that's not the Disasters of War.
It's the Black Paintings.
There you go.
Black color.
Sue Ra is on the test. What did Sue Ra study? He started studying it when he was a teenager.
Color theory.
Yeah. Instead of being interested in girls, he was interested in that. Most 17-year-olds, yeah. Probably all the other 17-year-olds were calling him a nerd. All right, the Sunday afternoon on the island of Le Grand Jatte is on there. Just know the slide ID info. All right, the sunflowers. Why? That's my question to you. Why? Why did he paint the sunflowers? Yeah. I have a phobia of sunflowers, and that would be my own personal hell.
Wait, why did he paint it? For gesture?
Elements.
The one that didn't want to be his friend.
Oh,
He decorated his room.
Oh, because it was all too bland, right? No, it wasn't. Was it too bland? Was the room too bland? For the
I never said anything about the room being bland, but
who was I just asking? The one that didn't want to be his friend.
yeah.
Shazam?
Could be.
Gauguin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gauguin.
All right, the Turner paintings. I think we looked at 3 Turner paintings. One of them was the slave ship. This painting is about, or this question is about the other 2 paintings.
Wait, so it's not a solution?
Right. We looked at 3 paintings. One was the slave ship. This question is about the other 2 paintings. What was the message in the other 2 paintings?
What is that again?
Yeah, we watched the video of the ukiyo-e prints. We watched 2 videos of the ukiyo-e prints. One explained the ukiyo-e, and the other one showed how that was done. All right. This question is about the literal translation of ukiyo-e and what it means. And right now, I forget something about the floating world. All right, I never gave you the definition in class, so I don't think it's in the. But you can look it up very easy. The pictures of the floating world, I think, is what it means.
Yeah, pictures of the floating
Yeah.
world.
I'm a bad art history professor to crap out on that. All right. Okay, that finishes us for the review. Does anybody want me to go back and go over any of this? We went through it quickly. I'm happy to go back over it again. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for the current paintings, you want to know the meaning or the purpose or what?
What they're about. Yeah, what's the message?
Okay.
What did you want to know about the coronation of Napoleon? Was it the slide?
Yeah, what's the message there? What's the purpose of that painting?
Is it just pumpkin?
Bingo.
That's all I see.
I purposefully tried to be vague about a lot of this stuff because I don't just want to just give you the answers, because it's a test, right? What's the point? But so you can go back into the lectures, you can go back into your notes, you can rewatch the videos. I know students who do very well on my test. They, as part of the review for the test, they go back and watch the videos. All right, is that it? Anybody have any other questions about the test? We went over this fast. All right. Okay.